Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and welcome back to round 7 of the ADEC, the Acelith Design Endurance Championship, Season 5, 2020. We're focusing on Tier 2 as always, and here we continue our journey through Japan, having made our way from Fuji to the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. And once again, I'm joined in the commentary box by
Plux the Duck. And yes, welcome to sunny Suzuka. We're back in our second leg of our Asian finale here in Japan, and we'll be racing the correct cars for this track, which is of course our Group 2 Super GT cars, and we'll have a selection of the different chassis available for this very intense group. I'd say it's the most pure racing class here, and yeah, we should have a good race.
being caught in the dirty air of another car in the Group 2 cars?
Pretty bad. You want to be the leader into turn 1, and actually of all the drivers here, JJ's got the best shot of that. The 08 cars, because they have the least... well, A, he's going to be at the front, almost certainly, but secondly, the 08 cars don't have a turbo, so they get really good drive onto off the line, whilst the 16 cars, they have to deal with either lots of wheel spin, or they have to deal with loads of turbo lag. It's a bit of an art form to get those cars started, and even the best start in a 16 car won't be able to keep up with the 08 Nissan. It is the best starting car in this field tonight, as we see JJ pull straight out over the white line in qualifying. He'll need to make sure he doesn't do that in the race, because of course the pit lane white lines still exist, and you must make sure that you keep inside of the white line all the way down into T1. So JJ's got to make sure he doesn't do that again, as he wildly gets out the way of Bubo Lubo on the outlap. That's not going to help his tyres. He's actually pulled back to the pits now, and he's going again, as we've got 30 minutes. But the original question, like I say, was about dirty air, and I completely went off on a tangent about start, so let's get back on focus. It's horrible, especially this track. You really don't want to be in dirty air through this first sector. It is horrible. You lose all that directness and all that feel for the front end, and you just wash wide, and you can't carry that speed that you want to. So you're going to have to be very patient, and we may see big gaps forming quite early on between the cars, and the racing may come a bit closer together again once tyre strategy comes into play.
Oh, definitely. But with that, we're now riding on board with Sir Bottlejob. He's the first of our drivers to start a qualifying lap. He's had a very nice run into turns 1, 2, now into 3, and then into 4 in the 2016 Nissan GTR. He did have a bit of an interesting starting line to his qualifying lap, where he came from the right to left rather than starting it on the very left-hand side, so it's probably cost him a little bit of straight line speed, drifting the car over, whereas normally you want to start on the left-hand side. But focusing back on, he's just completed Sector 1 at the moment, and I can't see the times per se. He's coming through the Degnas at the moment, really aggressive into Degna 1 and breaking down into Degna 2 there. Bottlejob's definitely got a lot of confidence. He's practiced that line, because that's one of the scariest bits for me whenever I've raced around here, is Degna 1 and 2. It's probably my hardest pair of corners at this circuit. But enough about me, continuing with Mr. Bottle. He's gone through hairpin, a little bit slow to get on the power there, and I think he did perhaps underappreciate how much rotation he had put into the car there. So I think that's going to compromise a bit of time, but still. Coming up to Spoon right now. He's going to be coming down from 6th gear into 4th gear, keeping it a slightly higher gear, perhaps just to keep the car nice and planted into the first part of Spoon. Now down to 3rd for the second part, and then whacking it on the power. You've got one of the longest straights here, and he's going to be charging up to 130R. Now the question is, will he brake at all for 130R, or is he going to just lift off the throttle or attack it full power? Well, we're going to find out, and it's fully planted with the aerodynamics and those racing supersofts keeping the car nice and planted. Now down to the final corners, so Casio Triangle, getting it nicely lined up, cutting over the curves, and coming out the final corner to complete his lap. And our inaugural lap time is going to be a 1:47.8. Oh, goodness me, that is a fast lap, a fast banker.
That was very quick. He was purple of everybody in Sector 1 and Sector 2. However, JJ has now pipped him by a single thousandth in Sector 1. We'll see, and he was a little bit quicker in Sector 2 though. The fastest person was, so far in Sector 2, has been Bubo Lubo in the NSX, which is understandable. Degna 1 and Degna 2 being pretty much the only two corners there, and those being very high speed corners. You can take liberties, let's say, with the Honda through there, as we're starting to get some lap times through. I'm going to jump back with our season champion, JJ Balding, as he exits Spoon a bit wide through Spoon, if I'm honest. That wasn't the best of lines, and it's going to compromise him all the way up towards 130R. He's taking it right to the top of the 5th gear rev range. Will he be flat through? Yes, he is flat through 130R, so even the older 08 cars are getting the grip on no fuel and sticky hot tyres. Another run through the Casio Triangle, slightly different line to Bottle Job, a little bit wider of the curves, but a little bit earlier on the power, I think. As he runs up there, and that is 3/10 off Bottle Job, so a fantastic first lap from Bottle Job, making JJ have to work for it this time, unlike last week where he basically had pole all to himself from pretty much the start of the session. It looked like he had it under control. Definitely. And that's a great, really showing up what we're going to have here tonight. I believe some of our drivers did make mistakes on their laps. Spooky Lukey did a 53.7, which I can only believe was an error on his lap. Is he up? He's 5 seconds up on himself, put it that way, on his second lap.
He had a bit of a sketchy time going into 130R. He did clip the grass very briefly. I don't think he put the brakes on. He just had to get the steering back under control. So I think Spooky's got a lot in the tank here in terms of lap time. Yep. We're going to see a huge improvement, but I think he really wants to nail this lap. Yep. Oh, and look at that.
Spooky just pips G Rabbit, who he was in the slipstream of, up towards 130R, which may have helped him. As we see Mac in the Honda, our fastest Honda so far in P5, 9/10 off Bottle Job's pace setting lap so far. And at the back we currently have JC, who, like you say, he freely admits he's not the best qualifier, but he has really come on leaps and bounds in his consistency and his approach to the driving. And even so, it looks to me like he did do a 48.4, which is not exactly a is that right, or am I getting crossed wires on that? No, it does look like he's done a 48.4, but it's not counted the lap time as an actual lap. So more classic GTA Sport timing wobbles, as we are just going on board with Kamaru, the second place in the standings at the moment. Yep,
that is true.
With both him and Bottle Job dropping a 0 score, and then Bottle Job will drop 7 and Kamaru will drop 9 as the standings currently stand. Beautiful use of the English language there, Plux. It does mean that with only 4 points in hand over Bottle Job, it's close, and both of these drivers need a good result tonight. And Kim currently down in 7th position, so he's going to have to hope for probably some use of strategy to not lose too many points to Bottle Job and that coveted second place in the championship.
Yep. That is very true, and one thing that I think everyone should keep an eye out in this race, even if Kamaru qualifies towards the back of the grid, where he's currently 7th, and he's only a 10th off of Ubo in 6th, who in turn is only a 10th behind Hit the Mac in 5th. So there's a lot to play for in terms of time here as Kamaru comes to the end of another lap, is the fact that keep an eye out for Kamaru to come up through the field, because he has been one of our consistent runners by comparison with other drivers. I'm not discrediting other drivers, but it may be the case that whilst everyone else is fighting or making mistakes, we just see the Norwegian creep up, as I like to call him now, the nimble Norwegian, sneaking his way up through the field and potentially gradually getting closer and closer to his main championship rival. Because as you say, Plux, every single point's going to count now for the final 2 races to see who finishes in that coveted 2nd place behind Balding in the Tier 2 of Season 5. Now, we should also point out to our viewers, if you're wondering why Will Kanator is sitting in the pits and essentially he's probably gone away and grabbed himself a vodka martini, shaken not stirred, it's the fact that unfortunately he is still experiencing a qualifying ban based on his previous livery infringements with regards to, as I understand it, the tier platings on the rear of the car. So as a result, this is the final, if I remember correctly, the final qualifying ban he's going to experience. But again, remember last time out that Wilkinator did come charging up the field, and we also saw that previously when we were racing at Big Willow in round number 5. Wilkinator is not a driver to be discredited for the simple reason that, again, he's a bit of a hidden threat to the field, and he's going to be there over the long distance of the race, as Bottle Job gets it a little bit on the gravel coming into the Casio Triangle and completely aborts the lap. Now, whether that was just a warm-up lap and he was quickly getting the car stopped to commence, as he takes a very wide line and goes flying off the circuit there, going out the final corner. Bit too wide if you ask me. I think Bottle Job might need to reconsider, and yep, he's gone straight back to the pits. So, who's at the moment on a flying lap? Can you see anyone, Plux, is setting up the sector times?
No one currently seems to be setting up anything particularly special. I mean, G-Rabbit is on a personal best through... no, he's on an outlap. He's on a personal best because he's on an outlap. Spooky had a personal best final sector, but he blew... Oh no, I have no idea what's going on with Spooky Lukey's lap times there. It's all had a moment. It could be Kamaru who's on a personal best right now. I'm going to double check with him. He's just finished a lap time. Did he improve last time round? Yes, he did. He did improve a little bit. So there's a little bit of an improvement for him. Like I say, just waiting to see what looks like a lot of drivers came in for their final kind of gas and go pit stop. One last set of tyres. It's a long lap here, so people are going to want to get two flying laps. They'll need to go out now, get round, and be able to set 2 laps, as it is about a 1 minute 47 lap time if you're at the front of the field. But JJ did close up on his original lap time to only 22 thousandths off of Bottle Job's pace setting lap, and it's going to be an interesting little battle between these two. Let's just try and see who is setting up the yellow flags. It's Yules, has made a mistake through the final S on the run up to Dunlop Corner.
He picked up a 4.1 second penalty for it.
Yeah, that seems mightily unfair, but that's, again, GTS things. As we are now on board with Bottle Job, as we come on to his flying lap. He'll need to set this one up. He's got time for 2 laps, maybe even a third if he's lucky. So he's timed this well if he wants to have a couple of bites of the cherry. I don't know where the streamer's on board right now, but I'm going to stick with Bottle Job.
We're riding with him on his bonnet.
Okie dokie.
So Bottle Job then for his probably one of his faster laps here, coming down to turn 1. It's going to just be gradually trailing it into turn 2, coming down to third gear, using the outside curve to help rotate the car, coming out and right onto the outer curve of turn 2. Now coming through the twisty yeses here, so 3, then into 4, coming down to third gear there just to help stabilise and rotate the car a little bit perhaps, and then coming through 5. Now, not going up, shifting to 4th here, just going up towards the top end of 3rd gear, and now he's going to really hammer it, coming out of Sector 1 to begin Sector 2, shifting up into 4th, and now he's coming up into Degner 1, and here he's going to want to
just going to interrupt you because Baldwin's about to set the timing screens alight with probably a 47.5, even quicker, 47.4. I caught halfway through the lap, he was purple in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Bottle Job did not respond on that lap. He may be kind of sizing himself up, but the big difference was Sector 2. He was 4 tenths quicker than Bottle Job was on his previous lap, so really putting a good lap there. Bottle Job's going to have to find something if he wants to retake that pole position.
I get the feeling...
Still yet.
Sorry, after you.
As I say, still yet to have his first pole position, I believe, Bottle Job. He was second to Comrade in the last time we were here in the Group 2 car. Not here. Last time we were in the Group 2 cars at Monza. So he was probably hoping for a strong result, but this is not going to be the lap. He's a tenth down on himself. Unless he made a mistake through the final sector last time, this is not going to be an improvement. And he will just about, I think, get 2 laps more. So he's going to have to set this one up and the next one up and see if he goes for the narrow line or if he goes for the wide line. He goes for the narrow line again to try and improve, but he is still a tenth off. Very consistent lap times. He's done a 47.8 and a 47.9 to keep himself at the top of the field. He's now got traffic as he starts this lap, so that's going to possibly have cost him. I'll see who that was coming out the pits. It is Kamaru. He's going to have to be careful because it is frowned upon to kind of get in the way of people on a flying lap. So he can't take this one slowly, and I'm not sure actually that Kamaru will get round for a flyer. He might just about get round.
I think he's going to be the last guy to cross the line to commence a lap, whereas Bubo Lubo's just come across the line and gone into the pits. He's concluded qualifying. It looks like Max also done the same. So a good number of our runners here calling it quits.
And Balljob's gone wide! Off at Degner 2. That's going to cost him, because that's going to stop him getting that extra lap in, I think. That was a real shame. That's a really costly mistake, because even if this lap time wasn't great, and it didn't look to be brilliant, yeah, I think he got kind of spoilt in the dirty air of Kamaru. Just really unfortunate timing. But it looks like Bubo, like you say, he bailed on his final lap, so they're just all running around to get to the checkered flag to complete their qualifying session. Spooky Luki is on a lap. Let's see what his lap times are looking. He's set not an improvement in Sector 1 or Sector 2.
And with regards to Bottlejob, he went wide of the curb coming out of Degner 1, so he went wide of the outside curb and went onto the grass, and that carried him all the way through. Just really attacked it hard, as Kamaru is just about to make it across the start and finish line to be the last driver on a fast lap, and Balding has come in the pits. And Kamaru has parked it up right at the start-finish line.
I've seen him do that before. He usually waits just for the countdown timer to expire. So if he's not feeling confident about improving, he does sometimes do that. Looks like Mac is also another driver who bailed on his final lap, and Yules made a mistake through the first part of Spoon. So it looks very much like JJ's got this pole in the bag, unless someone was to pull some magic out the hat. But another strong pole position there for JJ. Looked like he had to work for that one a bit more. And Bottlejob will now have to concentrate on trying to maintain second position into P1, unless JJ was to have a mistake on the start line, which we've seen many drivers do in their time. I myself have had a full start penalty from pole position, so it can happen to anybody at any time. I'd be willing to take that bet on and say JJ's more likely to have a good start, knowing the characteristics of these cars. But I think Bubo Lubo could be a bit of a wild card there. If you know how to start that Honda, it can be lightning fast off the line. Not as good as the Nissan, but very, very good.
Alrighty.
The 08 Nissan, this is. Here we go.
Any moment now.
5 red lights.
And it's lights out and away we go. And Balding's got the brilliant launch as you expected, Plucked. But watching them all coming down to line. Bubo's had a phenomenal start as well. Up into second already, but he's on the outside into turn 1. Now, will Bottlejob hold back? He's taking the inside line. Bubo's giving him the space. And they're coming through all safe and sound. It looks as though all of our drivers have made it through turns 1 and 2 relatively safe. Nobody going charging off wide onto the dirt, as sometimes happen. You typically see in FIA races. So all our drivers are making it off the line safe and sound. And going through the S's now. Wilkinator's still right at the back of the field, and Balding has already pulled out 1.5 seconds on Bubo Lubo. But to be fair, Bubo's done a fantastic job. Go on.
That is the effect of dirty air through the S's. Whilst JJ does look exceptionally fast again, Bubo had no chance through there. It's so hard to follow through that section.
And speaking of winners, by the way, Kamaru's up to 4th.
Oh, fantastic start for Kamaru. He really found something there. I didn't actually get to catch what happened to everyone on the start there, but it's a fantastic start for Kamaru, showing his veterans nous, let's say, and getting himself up into, as he's under attack now by G-Rabbit. But I'm very sad I didn't get to quote the famous Murray Walker quote of "It's happened immediately." It looked like it might be when Bubo was going around the outside of Bottlejob. I was all ready to pull the trigger on that one, but unfortunately it did not happen immediately. And Bubo, as I said, was going to be the wild card starter, and did light up those, get those tyres hooked up.
Bolljob's going for a move. Casio
had a look, but I think that was a little bit ill-advised. Now he's going to be slow out of the corner. Though I'm talking rubbish, and actually he's got a much better launch than Bubo as they head down towards turn 1. down the main straight this time. The Nissan is better in a straight line than the Honda natively, and with that better launch, he's got it done already. I think Bubo might have lifted out there, because that seemed far too easy for Bottlejob to just waltz past, and maybe Bubo decided to turn down the engine mix there to naturally slow the car a bit and still keep on his line into T1. But that's Bottlejob up into P2, and actually they've caught up JJ, so I don't know if JJ had a mistake. I'm going to check the live timing to see if he made an error. Looks like he did. He lost around a second in Sector 3 last lap compared to Bottlejob, and of course Bottlejob was held up behind Bubo at the time, so Bottlejob really pushing on here. He's already taken the gap down another 3/10.
And whilst that's been going on, I don't know if we've been able to catch it on camera. We're just going to see if we managed to get it on replay. JC lost out massively coming out of hairpin on lap number 1. He went out wide onto the grass and caught 2 wheels, the right-hand wheels on the grass, and that spun him
JC's off again.
Oh no, not again. Commentator's curse already for JC. Oh, he's just got to calm it down and get back in there. There's still plenty of racing to go. We're only 3 minutes in.
Yeah, and I was talking about G-Rabbit looking racy and punchy at the start. He's had a mistake somewhere. I haven't quite got where it happened, but he's dropped down from right behind Kim to now into 7th position, so I'm guessing he must have had a mistake somewhere as well on that opening lap.
And Wilkinator has fallen a bit back as well. It seems as though a couple of our drivers have been victims to mistakes or incidents that we haven't been able to catch on camera.
Sorry to interrupt again, but we want to get on board with our leaders, because Bottlejob is taking it to Balding. He's got the gap down to 4/10, and my talk of dirty air was complete rubbish.
He's really catched it.
Yeah, he's really catched it. Catched him, beautiful English there.
Caught
him as they head.
Oh no! He's gone wide.
He's gone wide. He's going to have to get that under control. Now, don't get on the power too early. And now he's going to lose the position. He just got caught out. Eyes got a little bit too big, I think, and he tried to go for the big send. Now, he can recover that still. That's not the end of the world. And with the speed that he caught back up, he's just got to get those tyres clean and not let himself beat himself up too much for making that error. Everybody has made that sort of error before. I remember myself in 2019 making that error twice on almost back-to-back laps. And as Kamara is now looking really punchy, he senses the dirty tyres. He's got Spooky up behind him as well. Now Bolljob's got to make sure he doesn't throw it off there with the dirty tyres. That was much cleaner. Nice line, but he has
a half-second penalty.
But it is right at the start of the lap, at the start of the race. He should be able to burn that off by the end of the race. He can usually burn a bit of penalty off into the Casio triangle. But yeah, Bolljob's really got to make sure he doesn't throw this away. He lost a lot of time. He's lost around 3 seconds, but that in an hour's race he can make that up, and if he can use the strategy as well, we haven't even spoken about that. But Balding really isn't pulling a huge gap this time. Bubo's actually staying with him on pace now, so we'll have to see how that all goes together. And actually, Bolljob's made a mistake. He's down to 5th.
Oh goodness me, I was just checking the telemetry of Balding to see if he was doing significant fuel saving. We're going to have to see what happened there on the string. So, Bottlejob was inferred going into Spoon, so he's coming up into Spoon at this point, went into braking for the first part. Oh, and he went wide under braking and ended up going onto the AstroTurf, went sideways and caught it. Brilliant work by Bottlejob. He caught the car drifting coming out the second part of Spoon and was only losing 2 places as a result. Oh, I've never seen that in my career of GT Sports, somebody catching a GT2 through Spoon going sideways like that. You sure he shouldn't be taking part in the drifting leagues at this rate? We are in Japan after all. Perhaps he dropped over to some of the drifting leagues whilst he was waiting between races, between Fuji and now.
I think he's been taking some lessons from Drifty Spice, if I'm honest. He's DK Alex. Well, actually, awesome Alex, but he's known as Drift King or DK within the DR community. And yeah, Bottlejob starting to kind of prove his name a little bit here. He's got to calm it down. He knows he's got the pace, but now he's thrown away around 6 seconds and 4 positions. He's now got to knuckle down and just make it happen now. He can't let himself get frustrated with the mistakes he's made. He's got so much more pace than Spooky Lukey. You can see that already. He's just all over the back of him already. So this is going to be a recovery race through the field. And that gap between Lubo and Balding is still not stretching much. Only pulled around 3/10 over the course of the last lap. And that's actually come back in. We'll have to see how the tyre weighs. I think JJ's tyre weight is a little bit worse than
than Bubo's, I'd say.
Bubo's running split tyres. He's got supers on the front and softs on the rear, so he's really trying to protect those rear tyres and going for the aggressive strategy. And he's actually caught up a lot. If you look, he's got the gap down to 9/10. So that Nissan GTR really not showing itself to be the class of the field at the moment when it comes to tyre wear. But he is a little bit up on fuel. That's worth noting. And he did have a great run through the Casio Triangle there, really protected his line. And Bottle Job again drops off the back of Spooky. I think he's had another error.
And he's being overtaken side by side here by looks things with G Rabbit, who in the Lexus. I think the Lexus hasn't got the legs initially, but he's making his way past gradually. But he's going to be on the outside into turn 1. Now, will Bottle Job stay on the inside? And he just goes around the outside, G Rabbit. That was brave stuff going into turns 1 and 2. But he's got the move done. Well, G Rabbit went a little bit on the grass there, but he can keep it together through the S's. And I think he's going to be okay. With Bottle Job's all over the back of him now. Boy, it's going from bad to worse for Bottle Job. But again, we're only 8 minutes in, as you say, Plux, and he can make the time up, but he's just got to settle it down right now because he's losing a place a lap at this rate.
Yep, he is. We've actually lost a runner, unfortunately. I believe we've lost JC, so he's had to retire the car, unfortunately. Would explain why the car was a bit wayward. And the best thing I could see Bottle Job doing at this point in the race is, as G Rabbit's made a mistake, Bottle Job had to get out the throttle and had to make a huge evasive manoeuvre to not have that go wrong. And that was quite the drive, but if I was Bottle Job at this point, I would be pitting at the end of this lap. Get rid of those cut tyres. He's destroyed them, having all these errors. There's a big gap behind Mac now to Yules. And the pit stop, this was my secret thing I was going to say, which is the pit stop time here is just ridiculously short. So you're going to want to pit a lot of times, and I think Bottle Job should be in this time after having destroyed his tyres. The gap at the front, by the way, has come back out 7/10. Well, actually, it came out a bit more than that, and then Balding made a mistake, I think, because and it was like Balding's pitting. Actually, he's had looked to do what I suggested. He's got that gap, and the pit stop timer here is ridiculously short. He's going to jump out and only come out in
4th place,
just behind Lukey. Bottle Job is into the pits, as is G Rabbit and Mac, and it's Bottle Job at the back of this queue. So did he make another mistake that we didn't see on stream?
I'm wondering, did he take any fuel? No, he didn't take any fuel in the pits. So if there was we didn't catch a mistake. I'm just going to rewind back the replay now and see if we can spot anything. No, we've literally got it from when he came into the pits. So if there was a mistake, it must have been going up into 130R perhaps. But there has been some fighting further down the field. Mac did drop off and make a mistake and got into some fighting with, I believe at the time it was Yules SK and also a little bit with G Rabbit, but that was much earlier on. There's just so much going on up and down the field right now, it's hard to tell which ones to follow. I think Bottle Job is going to be trying to go for the move on Mac very shortly as they come through Degner 2 at the moment, and Bottle Job is literally all over the rear grille of Mac. But looking further up the front, Bubo's leading.
I'm just keeping an eye on, of course, Balding pitted, and he's now stuck behind Spooky. So what Bubo needs to do is keep it as tight, clean as possible. Hope that Spooky kind of gets in the way.
Spooky's gone wide.
Spooky has gone wide, but he's kept the throttle in. Actually, he didn't lose too much time. He's got the slipstream of Kim ahead of him, and this is quite a recovery after what looked like a drastically wide exit of Spoon. He's going to have to be careful, though, into the Casio Triangle. He'll have to go to the inside and defend it. Oh, no, he's allowed.
He's not defending it, he's letting him through.
He's not defending it, he's letting him through. And Balding does pull that up beautifully. Classic bot pass. Now, will we see Bubo into the pits this time? No, he's going long. So here's the difference in strategy, and I think this is a mistake from Bubo, knowing what the pit timer is here. I think a 5-stop strategy will be the best strategy, as Spooky's having a look back into... He's having a look, but he's never going to have the tyre performance to go around the outside there. Meanwhile, Bottle Job and Mac are having a good old fight, 13 seconds down from the lead.
Side by side into turn 1, Bottle Job on the inside, and Mac's tucking him behind, making sure not to try and go side by side. We're waiting for the moment we can use the Murray Walker quote, but, well, even some semblance of it, but nobody wants to fully stay side by side bar Bubo and Bottle Job on lap number 1 at this point in time. Oh goodness me, it's all chop and change at the moment, but we're not seeing really any car dominate, and that's the one thing that surprised me. Such with Spooky Lukey there coming back at boarding on the straights in the Lexus.
Definitely so. It shows that if you can get the run, and if you set it up right, you can always have a go at someone. As we see, boarding almost pushing Kimaru through the hairpin there. He's all over the back of him on those fresh tyres, but the tyres go off very quickly here. You've got to be very careful on them if you want to make them last longer than 5-6 laps. And boarding still having a look. He'll be patient though. He'll probably be waiting until his favourite place at the Casio Triangle. But I would argue Kimaru is a bit more of a wily customer. He might
he's already
not
thinking
allow.
about defending.
Yeah, he's thinking about it, but this time JJ's got up the inside. He's got the better car in a straight line, but Kimaru, if he can tuck into that slipstream, he might be able to hold him off. And he has
backed out of it.
Backed out of it. It's not exactly like it's the last lap of the race. There's no point going for it, but he's again allowed the inside.
I think Kimaru may be pitting at the end of this lap. Oh, and boarding almost gets it wrong, and he's had to back out of it through the triangle. And is that Kimaru into the pits? And Spooky's staying out. He's going to use the slipstream of boarding to give him a little bit of a speed boost down the straight here. This could work in Spooky's favour if he can stay in the slipstream of boarding. And boarding goes onto the grass into turn 1 there. But if Spooky can stay in the slipstream, that's going to give him a bit of time, and that may give him the edge in the fight against Kimaru and Bubo, because they seem to be a little pack fighting for second at the moment, and it's anybody's game between the three of them right now. Boarding, I think, is going to feel pretty accomplished with regards to his pit stop. It's worked out. He's had to sit in the group for a little while, but he's now got himself a nice, what would be about 6 seconds, well not even 6 seconds, for a second gap to Boarding at this point. Sorry, to Bubo at this point. Get all my names mixed up, all the numbers here. Don't do a Murray Walker here, Paul. Get it together. But no, Boarding's been the victor of this first set of pit stops, I'd reckon.
Yes, I mean he did have the undercut, and he had the lead going into the pit stop phase, so it's likely that he was going to come out with a bit of an advantage. I think it all comes down to now, can Boarding keep it clean, and he'll be able to now use those fresh tyres to get away. But I think a lot of his closest challenges have either gone on to different strategies or have cost themselves with early errors.
And I should point out, right at the back of the field at the moment, Wilkinator, who would appear to be running really far behind everyone, 7 seconds behind Jules SK in 8th, so Wilkinator's in 9th, the last of our current runners. He has already taken on a lot of fuel in the pits, which is why he's so far back. So expect Wilkinator to potentially creep up into the fight with Hit the Mac and Jules SK, given that he's taken on a lot of fuel. But that's something just to keep your minds on in the background, folks, if you're wondering about our drivers further down the field. But meanwhile, Spooky now coming into the pits and almost going out onto the grass there, but just keeping it together. This is going to be a quick pit stop, I reckon. He won't be taking on fuel here. And what that means is that will now release Bubo back up into second, but the gap between Bubo and Boarding now up to 4.5 seconds as Spooky comes out, and I think he's just going to emerge ahead of G-Rabbit by about 1.2 seconds going into turn 1. So it's worked out for Lukey, albeit perhaps I was wondering whether he was going to try and undercut Bubo and Kimaru by being the first of those three to pit, but instead he decided to play the long game, and hasn't worked out necessarily this time, but he has got himself some breathing room now. 1.7 seconds behind Kimaru and 1.9 seconds ahead of G-Rabbit, so he could use that to his advantage and just perhaps spend a bit of this stint doing tyre management, making those tyres last a bit longer, or even doing a little bit of fuel saving if he feels comfortable at managing this gap. He's giving himself options, I reckon, which is something which is good to see from Spooky, because as we said in the earlier show, Spooky has not had the best of races, so if he can keep this up, he's on for a good result. But
definitely so.
Anything else happening around the field at the moment? Kimaru is gradually creeping up to the back of Bubo as they came out of hairpin there. The gap's now down to 1 second and not stabilising a little bit, but I think Kimaru's braver on the brakes, so he's definitely closing up to Bubo under braking massively in the slow corners.
Indeed. It's interesting to note that Bottle Job went onto the soft tyre, while everyone else I think has stayed on the super. Oh no, G-Rabbit's on the soft as well, but our lead 4 cars are all on the supers. G-Rabbit and Bottle Job are on the softs, as is Hit the Mac, and Yules and Wilkinator are on supers. So we could expect to see maybe a little bit of a longer stint from Bottle Job and G-Rabbit and Mac. But at the moment, it is definitely Balding streaking away. He's at the new fastest lap of the race last time by. He's actually a half second off himself on this lap, though, so it shows how fast the tyres decay here.
Well, definitely. And just looking through the field, so I've been doing a little bit of looking at the driver's relative fuel at this point in time. So we've got Balding running about 65% fuel at the moment. Bubo's used a lot more fuel by comparison. He's at about 58%. Kamaru has been even using more fuel. I think he's at about 54% at this point in time. Spooky about the 58% mark as well. And then G-Rabbit around the 50% mark. That Lexus is very thirsty on fuel by comparison with the Nissan and the Honda, or at least the drivers are making it out to be. And Bottle Job has used a lot of fuel in his GTR. He's down to about 55. Mac about the same, about 56, 57. Yules, again, about 54 in the Lexus. And Wilkinator at the moment with that massive refuel on his first pit stop as he goes wide out of turn 2. But he's kept it relatively straight. He's just keeping off the throttle and he's rejoining safely going into turn 3. He's the one with all the fuel in the car at the moment, but I don't think he's capitalising on that quite just now, but he may re-emerge later on. So that's the fuel roundup, but really at the moment our drivers are all fairly evenly matched on fuel. But I'd say that there has been a bit of fuel saving on Balding's part. I did notice some early upshifts when he was leading before the pit stops. He was upshifting about 3/4 of the way up the rev bar, which I don't know if that's the optimum position for the 08 Nissan, or whether you want to really rev the guts out of that engine.
I'm not sure off the top of my head what the optimum position is of that car. I can find out for you though. Give me 2 seconds.
That'd be good. It'd be good to know whether he's if he's revving it out to the optimal, or whether he's doing a bit of fuel saving. As we can also see that Kamaru and Spooky Luke are all catching back up to one another now. They're all 8 tenths apart from one another. So Bubo 8 tenths of Kamaru, who in turn is only 8 tenths ahead of Spooky. But Spooky's been the one to have the best launch out of Casio Triangle, going down to the start-finish straight to commence lap number 11. And he's gradually gaining, but Kamaru is also neutralising that gain, just being out on the slipstream of Bubo. And you can see how Kamaru gains in the braking zone into turns 1 and 2 compared to Bubo.
G-Rabbit is in the pits, by the way, just
G-Rabbit
update you on that. Yeah, he's in the pits. He's taking fuel as well, I believe. So he's going with the longer pit stop on the soft tyre. To be fair, Bottle Job was actually closing in quite aggressively on that previous lap. He's actually running a similar pace to our race leader, even though he's on soft tyres. So that's...
And we've got a battle. Sorry to cut over you. We have got a battle into Degner 1. Spooky's trying to go on the inside of Kamaru. Oh, you got to be careful, Spooky. Don't go on the AstroTurf too wide. It'll get the car back under control. Oh, goodness me, that would have been a brave lunge up the inside into Degner 1. You don't normally see it unless you're fully alongside. Spooky, though, did put his nose in, but it just didn't quite work out.
I think that was very quickly heading towards the steward's office if that had stayed in. That was a little bit optimistic from the young Spooky there, but he is trying to get the moves done. He has set his personal best lap of the race last time, of a 49.2. And then we have Kamaru, who is running around 49.7s consistently, and is a little bit quicker than Bubo, and then Balding, who was minorly quicker than Bubo last time. So we'll see. This is probably when you'd expect to see Balding now pit, going off his strategy of pitting every 10 minutes, I believe. Let's see if he does come in. Yes, he does.
Yep, he's
so
in.
Balding will be in. He's on 59%, so a great amount of fuel. I think he'll come out in P3. It's a very quick pit stop here.
And you can see Bubo's pulling over a little bit just to try and break the toe. And here's Balding. Here we go. Into turn 1
here
then.
He goes around the outside. Ooh. No, Kamaru isn't the driver for it. I think a more aggressive drive. Let's say if Spooky had got through at that, I think Spooky might have tried to hang that round the outside, and now Bubo's going to have to defend for all he's worth. Of course, his tyres aren't actually that old. He pitted not that long ago, but it's not the same as fresh, super soft tyres. So, will Balding wait, or will he go for the aggressive move? I know what I would do in this scenario, but will Balding do the same?
I mean, I get the feeling Balding's going to want to try and get past going up into 130R, because the longer he's stuck behind Bubo, the more it neutralises the freshness of those tyres. But at the same time, it must be frustrating for Kim and Spooky, because at this point, they're pretty hoping they were going to come out again in front of Balding, who seems to have almost played his cards perfectly here, just couldn't quite get out in front of Bubo. So for the guys behind who are closing up on Bubo very rapidly now, they're thinking, now we've got Balding in the way and we've got to do all the work all over again. But still, let's see how long Bubo's able to keep Balding behind. Well, then again, if Balding plays it right, Bubo may come in for a pit stop soon if he feels he's going to have to undercut the two guys. Bubo goes wide out of Spoon, and Balding's looking to the inside, and yet Bubo's not going to be able to cover that, and that means Balding is now up into first through Bubo's mistake, but in return, Bubo's hanging back.
Into that slipstream and trying in. He wants to go for the aggressive move. No, he's not going to be close enough.
Spooky, however, is going out for the move into Casio, and he's on the inside initially. He's got it planted under braking, and I think that's third place at this point in time for Spooky as they come round. Oh, it's all chop and change, but now this means that Spooky and Kamara must be thinking, oh great, Balding's out of the way, let's go hunting down Bubo once again, but this time it's going to be the little yellow Lexus instead of the Norwegian Lexus charging after as Bottlejob comes into the pits. Now, is he going to take on fuel here, or is he going to try and
he's
go...
gone straight for the hot tire. He's going to try and stay out ahead of Mac, I think, and I think he's going to just about pull it off. It's going to be close though into turn one. Mac might have a look down the inside. No,
that's
Mac
too far
back. Too far back, and B, he's a far too wily veteran of this series. He's been all the way up and down every tier, and he knows it's just not worth the potential collision. And that's going to work out well for Bottlejob here because he's cleared what you could argue was traffic. He does look to be the quickest of this group, and actually I think probably quicker than
hold on a second. We had an incident. Kamaru's off. Kamaru's off. Didn't mean to cut over you. Let's see what happened.
No, that's far more interesting than my rambling. What happened there?
So, coming out of Sector 1, beginning Degner 1. So, he was right in the slipstream of Spooky. I'd say no more than 4 tenths back. Coming in, he came in and he drifted sideways under the initial turning for Degner 1, and that sent him off into the gravel. He's had to straight line it and rejoin. So, he has dropped 7.2 seconds back as Wilkinator's had to retire the car as well. That's unfortunate. We're now down to 8 runners. It wasn't Wilkinator's day, unfortunately. Oh, goodness me. But Kamaru's got so much work to do now. Now, I reckon he's going to have to pit. He's going to have to go straight into the pits here in order to catch back up to these guys. As Spooky is closing up onto Bubo. The pressure off of Spooky. He's going to be charging up to the back of Bubo. And the gap's down to 2.5 tenths. And they're coming up into the Casio triangle. Is he going to go for... And he's going for the move to the inside. Flipping next Spooky. Let me at least say my words. But Bubo has cut it off. And he's still holding on to second place for the time being as these drivers come around to complete the lap. Bubo's into the pits. Spooky's going long again. Goodness me. Now it all comes down to whether Bubo... Well, I'm assuming Bubo's not going to take on any fuel here because he's going to want to get out.
He's already out.
Yeah, he's going to be putting in the lap. And Kamaru's in.
So, Bottledrop's going to close up a little bit. Mac might now jump. Yeah, Kim's putting fuel in, so Mac will jump him. And maybe even G-Rabbit will.
G-Rabbit has jumped him. G-Rabbit is past and now coming down to turn 1. So Kamaru is going for a very early fuel stop. I mean, we're only 25 minutes in, but this is an early stop compared to the normal where we see it around the 30 to 35 minute mark. Do you reckon Kamaru's going to try and spring a surprise then by just simply staying out of everyone's way and creeping back into the fight?
I mean, that's what I'd do if you're going that long. He's trying to get himself out of the traffic, run his race. The downside is he's put all the fuel back in the car, which means it's going to be slow. The upside is he's got clean air, no battles, and I think he felt maybe he was being held up a little bit. But we'll see how that plays out. I agree he probably will creep back up the field, but he needs a bit of luck to go his way and some strategy to go his way. As we can see, Mac was
Mac and G-Rabbit
there, and Mac and G-Rabbit having a good old fight. Mac's on ancient tyres, that's his problem, and he just had no traction out of the hairpin. He just couldn't get the car turned in, couldn't get the power back on, and G-Rabbit's just blasted straight past him. Bottlejob is now a comfortable 4th position. So like I say, that pit stop came at a really good time for him.
And Mac has gone wide going into Spoon. He's managed to recover it. He's slid a little bit sideways, but he's got the car back under control. He's going to need to pit at the end of this lap. That rear left is shattered.
Those tyres are absolutely destroyed. The soft... I think I mentioned this last time. The tyres degradation profile is not linear, and it's not... Each compound... That amount of red has a really different pronounced effect, and the soft tyre is one of those tyres where once it starts getting around 60-70%, it feels like it's terrible. You've just got you can't lean on it anymore. You have to just tickle it round, and there's still a little bit of grip in there, but if that envelope is much narrower of what you can actually do with it. and it's much easier to overdrive the car. Now, if you're out in the lead, like let's say JJ, you can tickle the car around and actually go pretty darn fast, because you've got no pressure behind you, so you're just kind of pushing within the car's ability. As actually, I just want to interrupt myself, Bottle Job on soft tyres has just set the fastest lap of the race of the 48.3, which is 0.6 quicker than what JJ managed on Supers. So I think Bottle Job's going to be a little bit annoyed with himself for his early mistakes, because he's really showing now that he has excellent pace.
And just to butt in there, Hit the Mac went a bit wide. Hit the Mac has pitted and actually come out in front of Kamaru, and Kamaru is all over the back of Mac, because Mac got it wrong going out of Degna 2 and went wide and had to rejoin carefully. And that means I think Kamaru, he's going to want to get past Mac as soon as possible, because remember, Kamaru is on a very different strategy as Mac goes on the grass end before they even get up into Spoon. And
oh my word.
Kamara's bad to back out, and Mac has moved out the way effectively. Well, got a bit deep, and Kamara said, "Thank you very much. I'll take that, thank you." And now Kamara's
like Mac ran almost into the back of him.
Yeah, oh goodness me! I think, and they're going side by side, come up into 130R here now. Is Mac going to try and hang it round the outside in the NSX and those fresher tyres? Oh, here we go then. Kamaru is tucking in. Oh, Kamaru just hasn't got the legs on the straight in the Lexus compared to the NSX at this time. And now Kamaru's got to do it again as Spooky Lukey finally comes into the pit. And I think we're just going to jump back to see where Spooky Lukey comes out. And I should point out, by the way, whilst we were talking about the tyre wear, Spooky did have a very difficult time coming to the end of what had been lap number 14, where he went sideways coming out Casio Triangle onto the start-finish straight, and that cost him 2.5 seconds to Bubo. So that's why he's now 5 seconds behind. He's actually dropped behind Bottle Job in the whole switcheroo of the pit stop. So Spooky's activities of going long on his tyres per stint is not necessarily working out. He might need to switch things up in the second half of this race, what with us having 31 minutes to go now, because it's not working out going deep every time for Spooky, or at least it doesn't seem so. But it may come to fruition as he starts drifting through Degna 2 there. I think everybody's got a little bit of the Tokyo drift in the veins tonight, but looking further down the field, Kamaru is now finally past Mac. Now, we didn't see that happen. We're just going to quickly flick back and check. No, it had already happened. I think it happened into turn 1. I think Hit the Mac went wide through turn 1 and turn 2. We didn't catch that on camera.
Oh, Mac's off again.
Mac is off again.
Run wide, and now Yules is going to be closing up on him. And Mac, who actually looked pretty comfortable in that 5th, 6th position, through a couple of unforced errors, has dropped himself almost into last now that we've lost Wilkinator and JC. Meanwhile, at the front, Balding's lap times are dropping off pretty severely at the moment. He's actually pitting. So that's quite interesting. But he's done very well on his fuel. He's still got 41% of his fuel. Bubo is now going to be far too far. Oh no, he's fueling this time. So will Bubo manage to sneak himself back into first position? I don't think so.
It's going to be close. I think he's going to...
Oh, no. So close. But Bubo's tyres aren't that old. They're only about 2-3 laps old. And that's a real shame. If he had a slightly cleaner second lap out the pits, if he dipped that into the 48s, I think maybe he could have had a run. Our old mate, though, Mr. Bottle Job, has managed to close in the gap quite significantly, actually, to Bottle Job. It's only now, not Bottle Job, sorry, to Bubo. It's only 4 seconds now. And of course, he's going a little bit longer than Balding and was quicker than Balding for the whole of the second half of that stint. So he's not out of it for maybe a P2. And if Balding does kind of drop the ball a little bit here, there is still a chance we could have a battle for the lead. Bubo has kept the pressure on really nicely, made sure JJ has to be really on it for every lap of his sprint stints, because that is what JJ is doing. He's doing the almost patented CS Racing. Of course, he is a junior driver in CS Racing for the last 2 rounds of this season. Time attack star race strategy of just sprint then pit and sprint then pit, which was made infamous by Smith after the shorter pit stops were brought in. He was the first driver really to start to exploit that, and it very much won him. It was a big push behind his season 6 tier 1 crown this time next season last year. He really kind of came out of being a title challenger to a title dominator in that season, using that strategy extra especially well, as we see who's just let someone through. Oh no, that's Bottle Job just closing up another second. Sorry, I saw a white car on the pit straight and thought it must have been yours, because I didn't think that Bottle Job would have got that so close up already. As we see G-Rabbit
into the pits
now.
But Bottle Job is going like a flipping demon in that GTR at the moment. I've been watching him. He is literally attacking the circuit. He knows that he can get that second off of Bubo, because he stripped on that lap alone about 7 to 8 tenths out of Bubo.
He took more than that. He took 1.3 seconds out of Bubo.
Oh, goodness me. It must be just in the final 2 sectors where he stripped out the time I'm referring to, because...
Yeah.
He's on a mission.
Huge lap. He is very much trying to prove that, yeah, JJ, you're very, very quick, but I was just as quick today, and I just got a little bit hot into T1, and it's amazing how these little incidents occur. One mistake on lap 2, or lap 3, whatever it was, has given Baldwin effectively a pit stop or 2 pit stop advantage. It means he can just be comfortable now and just got to kind of get it round and not make any mistakes in the super cheap auto CS Racing Junior car. And he'll have a good time there, as we see Bubo, who has driven brilliantly in that NSX, really showing what that car can do. And it's interesting, we've got 3 different chassis in the top 4 different chassis in the top 4.
Yeah.
At the moment, we've got the 08 Nissan, followed by the Honda NSX, followed by the GTR 16, and the Lexus 16 car as well, before we then get a repeat of another Lexus, which I believe is the most popular car in the field tonight by some margin. 1, 2, 3, 4 Lexuses. I don't really know what the plural noun is for Lexuses. I know it's Loti for Lotus.
So whilst we debate the English grammar a little bit, just further down the field, I should point out that I think Jules has had a bit of an unfortunate run at some points. He was running quite close behind Hit the Mac. However, he has dropped off. I think there was an error on about lap 16 where he was closing up to the back of Mac, but now he's dropped off and he's coming into the pits for a pit stop off of his super softs. Probably to take on another set and potentially go on for the fuel to the end of the race. And that means that G-Rabbit doesn't have to worry about any pressure from behind. Yeah, and Jules is taking on the fuel. And Mac, meanwhile, is running quite a lonely little 6th place at this point. But on the positive side, he is putting in the laps. He has had some uneventful laps, and I think he's going to be coming up for his fuel stop soon, because he's got just under a quarter of a tank remaining, and his tyres have probably got about 3 to 4 laps left within them before he'd ideally like to pit. So we'll see the Mac closing up with what will be, I reckon, a combination of G-Rabbit or Jules SK over pit stop shortly, although G-Rabbit did go for a very long fuel pit stop on lap 17. So we should keep that in mind. In fact, yep, he is fueled to the end, definitely, and he's really pushing on those racing softs already. That front left is screaming out in pain compared to the other tyres right now. He's really going for it. So I get the feeling that he's probably going to want to try and catch up to Kim if possible, but he's got some way to go. But that's what's happening in the bottom third of our field at the moment. And then we have got Kamaru, who is 17 seconds down on Spooky Lukey. But if I remember correctly, Kim did take on a lot of fuel. And also he's had not the cleanest the last couple of laps. So that's where the gap is. So we do have our front runners. As Spooky Lukey has picked up another penalty, but looks like he's got 0.1 second of a penalty still to take. But he's probably going to have to take his... another set of tyres soon, and well, he definitely has taken some fuel on board. So the only one who really needs to take a massive pit stop at this point in time of our front runners is Bubo, by the looks of things, and Balding to an extent.
Balding for an extent. Spooky's now got over half a tank and has regained 3rd position after his pit stop on lap 15, where he took a bit of fuel in. Bottlejob's just been in for a fuel stop of his own. A little bit longer pit stop for him there. That drops him back into 4th position, 17 seconds off the lead. So we'll have to see how that all ties up. Because Balding will be pitting for another set of tyres very shortly, probably at the end of lap 21, maybe lap 22. Such is the relentless work that he's making his team pit crew do today. Many sets of those super soft tyres. I've always found it quite amusing, actually. The CS Racing team can't really decide who their tyre manufacturer is, because they've got Michelin's on the side, but then they've got every other tyre supplier on the actual car itself. So I'm not really sure who supplies their tyres.
Might be. It might be they flip a coin each week between two tyre suppliers and see which one comes up heads. But
it does seem that way because there's definitely Yokohama and Hancock and Bridgestone and all that on the side. I think team boss Tessie Smith is just taking whoever's willing to put their logo on the side of the car's money at the moment, or he's got a very clever I've definitely got your tyres on, mate strategy going on as Bubo goes for a very aggressive
and sorry to interrupt, over the top of that, Spooky Lukey I think has a really bad run on this lap, because the gap between him and Bottlejob is now down to half a second, and Bottlejob is tearing his way on that start finish straight. I think there could be a move on here, and if Bubo gets caught up in the mix, which he definitely is because he's coming out the pits, oh goodness guys, you're all coming down to the corner, but it looks as though Bubo's going to tuck him behind Bottlejob here, but Spooky is having a difficult time of it. And yep, he's gone sideways out of two. Those tyres are not in the greatest of shape.
And his tyres aren't in a great position. And Bottlejob is going to be careful here because, unbeknownst probably to Spooky, he is lagging a treat right now. And that's always disconcerting whenever you're trying to make a move on someone. You're never quite sure where they are, where they're going to brake, when they're actually on the accelerator. So it can be very difficult. That's some very aggressive lag there for Spooky.
I think if I was Bottlejob, go into the hairpin, because it's probably the safest one on the connectivity, because you know that Spooky's got to take a line into the hairpin or up into.
But Bubo's right on his tail on those super soft tyres and using the Honda's supreme front end to close right up. And there's a little bit of lag contact there. This is what I'm talking about. His poor old Bottlejob thought he probably had the move done there, and then he gets a bit of contact, and then gets as they run down to Spoon. Now this is
it's going to get confusing for Bottlejob.
He made his intentions very clear, but that was against a pretend Spooky. He wasn't really sure where Spooky was, and now Bubo could really... but Bubo's run a little bit wide, I think, out of there. Didn't really get the best run out of Spoon, and here they come in the slipstream train. It's going to be an interesting one. Yeah, Bottlejob has lifted out into 130R, but here comes Bubo, and is he going to go for a big move? It's going to be very close.
Yeah,
he's gone for a hard move to pull off.
But Bottlejob's holding it back on the inside into the second part of Casio, and now as they come onto the start-finish straight, Bubo's been able to keep to the inside line, and Bubo's made the move stick, but again, they could be fighting again back into turns 1 and 2 as Bubo goes to the inside immediately, Bottlejog on the outside. It's going to be a repeat of lap 1, fellas. And
I'm ready to
side by side, and Bubo's backed out of it.
That was brilliant racing. As you say, Balding did pit. He's got a huge margin and has put all the fuel in. So I think Spooky holding up the field has really helped Balding out there. He's now got effectively a pit stop and a half time on the field. So he's really showing what he can do. He did set a new best lap during that previous stint for 48.0. I will shut up because, of course, Spooky is still in front of Bottlejob here.
Oh, this must be frustrating for Bottlejob because Bubo's all over the back of him, but in return, Bottlejob's got to try and find his way past the track. And Spooky goes wide out.
He was wide. He'll be slow. But all he's got to do is cover that inside, but he hasn't. Bottlejоб has a look.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, where's the lag?
And we lost our Lexus.
No, he's still there. He's just he's run out of grip.
Goodness me!
Brilliant.
And that means that now Bottlejob's been released. Now we've got to see whether he's going to be able to pull away and get Bubo off his back, because Bottlejob's going to want to see.
Oh, he's going to have an easier time of it because
Bubo's gone wide and Spooky's into the side of him. Oh goodness me!
This is chaos. Absolute chaos between three of our youngest hotshots in Tier 2. Of course, our youngest hotshot is out the front at the moment, but these three are good friends. They do race quite often in a different Discord server.
And coming up into Casio Triangle, is Bubo going to try and go around the outside? And Spooky goes defensive and plants it right in the centre under braking. Really smart position in the car there. I think Spooky's going to be due for a pit stop pretty in the next couple of laps. But the longer he can hold Bubo up here, the more he causes Bubo to essentially fall off of the pace of Bottlejob. And I think that's what Spooky's trying to go for. He wants to get these drivers to get frustrated and make mistakes. So he's the one who can benefit and get on that podium as they go into turn 1. And Bubo just looks to the inside, but he hasn't got... And Spooky's off! Oh, goodness me. Spooky just went a bit wide and clipped the AstroTurf. We're going to need to see a replay of that.
That looked very much like old Fernando Alonso's puncture he had at Suzuka in 2012 that really cost him the shot at the 2012 Formula 1 title. That kind of spear backwards into the gravel trap at T1. That was definitely not an enjoyable ride there for poor old Spooky, who'd done so well to hold on those tyres, and that's really cost him. He's a long way off the back of those guys now. That fight has really helped out Bottle Job now. He's got a couple of seconds advantage on Bubo, and of course with the soft tyre they do take a little bit longer to wear out, so he'll have better tyres at the end of the stint than Bubo. You'd expect Bubo will probably burn those tyres a little bit quicker, but it really comes down to how well he can hold on to those front tyres.
I mean, under braking here through Spoon, I'm seeing he's doing a lot of half input on the brakes. He's trying to trail it in as best as possible to manage that tyre wear. So I think Bubo's probably thinking to himself right now, he's really got to change up his strategy here, because he can't go for the outright pace on those tyres, because he knows Bottle Job's a fast driver and matching him on those softs. So I think, what do you do in this situation with Bubo with 17 minutes to go? Do you think to yourself, right, well, I've got a faster driver in front, do I just settle for third, or do I try and imagine something, trying to become a bit more imaginative on the strategies to get past Bottle Job essentially through the strategy? Because Bottle Job's just gradually eking away as they begin lap number 24. The gap's now up to 2.2 seconds, 2 tenths gained in the second half of lap 23.
No, he lost 2 tenths in the second half of lap 3. Yeah, it's 49.2 for Bottle and 49.0 for Bubo, so he has got a little bit more pace at this time, but 2 seconds, you're out the dirty air. 1.5 seconds, you're in the dirty air, and that's where he's going to really be in trouble. He's got to stay. What I would do at this point is protect those tyres, like you say. Try and keep yourself at about 2 seconds behind. Don't try and close in on this stint. Manage your fuel, use all the tools you've got in the car to keep yourself in the running later on. Don't think about this stint as the stint you make the move. Think about the next stint, or use the strategy to get yourself ahead. On fuel, he's slightly ahead than Bottle Job, so he'll have a slightly quicker pit stop, but he's got to make sure he doesn't damage those tyres. Conversely, Bottle Job now knows that he's got to make those tyres last for him. He's got the clean air. He's got a nice big target in Balding's delta. He can try and work on that delta. Try and get it down and just put that little bit of pressure on Balding, because Balding hasn't actually looked all that imperiously fast here. Yes, he's led every lap, but he hasn't been totally dominant in the same way as he was last week, where he was a second a lap quicker than everyone else.
And sorry to interrupt, Spooky has not pitted yet, and he's dropped down to 5th now as Camaro was able to get him going into the hairpin. Spooky went a bit deep on the brakes. Those tyres are so heavily worn at this point. Spooky's got to come in for the pit stop soon, because those tyres are just in a dire state, and he's dropping positions like wildfire here.
It is definitely one of those very unfortunate situations for Spooky, because he's
gone wide through 130.
He's held it, I think, maybe.
Yeah, he's got it under braking.
I don't know how he's managed to hold that one together, but
as G-Rabbit goes a bit deep into 130, and Spooky's in the pitch. G-Rabbit's having to rejoin as safely as he can. Oh, they're all going crazy through the final sector, and also Hit the Mac gets a little bit sideways going into Casio Triangle there. And that means that Jules SK is catching up, but they're on very different strategies at this point. Hit the Mac has got all his fuel to go to the end, whereas Jules has got to come in for a fuel. Well, I think he's got to come in for a bit of fuel soon. He's definitely got to come in for a pit stop soon. And G-Rabbit has just got out in front of Hit the Mac. So Mac's probably going to be really putting the pressure on G-Rabbit at this point. And looking through the field, nobody else is close to one another at this time, with Spooky now being 8 seconds down on Camaro. So Kim's really benefited from all this, but G-Rabbit as well, he's doing well in 6th at the moment, but Hit the Mac is going to be hunting him down. We'll have to keep an eye on that over the next couple of laps. But sorry to interrupt there, it was all getting crazy for 5th place.
It was getting a little bit mad there, wasn't it? I think everyone deciding to let their hair down a bit through that sector, but I think this is
sorry to interrupt again. Hit the Mac has gone wide out of Degner 2, and that means all the work he's done to close up to that. And Jules as well. Oh no! come on!
This track, it's very, very difficult to be consistent for the entire time. It's a highly technical, precise track. It's not easy to be fast for the entire time around this track. We've come here 3 times, I believe, now. We came here twice last season. I don't think we've come here yet this year. which is surprising. It isn't one of those kind of classic tracks, as you say. It's been such a title-deciding track at Formula One for so many years. You mentioned obviously the late 80s, but also the late 90s and early thousands. It was so decisive there. Of course, you had Hakkinen winning the title in '99 here, and I believe '98, and I think Schumacher won his title here in 2000 with that very emotional, passionate display of him finally winning that first Ferrari title. Of course, no one was aware of what dominance they'd go on to have for the next 4 years after that season, but you could see it was all that pouring and outwards of emotion after so many years of not quite being there.
And somebody's gone off on turn 2. It's hit the Mac. He's gone off on turn 2. Sorry to cut over you there. Just thought.
No, it's no problem. I'm just waxing lyrical. Mac not having his cleanest of races, and this is, like I said earlier about the...
he went on the grass into turn 1. Just literally the rear left wheel clipped the grass, and that sent him sideways across the curb. And then turn 2 was just gone. He was just off into distance. But he's recovered, and he's back on. But now I think... And he's gone sideways out of the end of sector 1. Oh, goodness, commentator's curse.
Yeah, I was just saying that Mac, he's not...
And we should, by the way, we should keep an eye on Bottle Job and Bubo, because they've closed up. Bubo is now less than 8 tenths behind Bottle Job. Sorry, back to what you were saying.
Bottle Job needs to come in for tyres right now. It's 12 minutes, which is, I think, about right for his pit strategy. And
he's coming in. You've called it.
Oh,
but you will need to take the fuel on.
And we'll have to take some fuel. Bubo's got less fuel to take on, but not by much, about 3 or 4 litres. Does Bottle Job go aggressive for this final stint and go for supers, or does he stick with his strategy, his plan, of staying on the softs?
And he's on softs again.
No, he's sticking with what he knows. I mean, it has worked. If you think, he was a long way down the field. Kamaru now comes in from P4, and he should come out ahead of Spooky.
It's going to be close. Spooky's just gone across the start-finish line to commence lap 27, and Kamaru, he's also putting 2 litres of fuel.
I think that might have been a mistake on the old fuel gauge. It's very easy to just accidentally miss the end of refuel button. I've done that a couple of times. You just put on 2 litres of fuel and you've lost a second and a half watching a man put a fuel hose on. It's very frustrating.
Now, from Spooky's perspective, his tyres are relatively fresh, so he's going to the end on these tyres and the fuel, so now it's up to Kamaru to essentially close that gap. It's 3 seconds the gap, so I reckon they're going to close up over the next couple of laps. If Kim really goes for it here, which I'm sure he will want to, because he'll want to close that gap up to Bottle Job as much as possible in the mitigate his losses in the championship to Bottle Job, who is going to finish ahead of him if nobody makes any major mistakes at this point in time. And Bottle Job is 7.3 seconds down on Bubo at this point. So Bubo's really hitting the tarmac, but has Bottle also made a mistake at some point? Because I thought the pit time loss was only about 5 seconds. Oh no, he took on fuel. My apologies. He took on the fuel to get into the end as well. So that's why the gap has opened up a bit more than, say, 5 seconds. As Balding, I think, is just coming into the pits for a tyre change and a cup of tea, perhaps. I think he's got the gap.
Yeah, I think he can get away with some
and
tea.
Bubo's
in as well. They're going for the 5-stop strategy. And Bottle Job now. This is going to be crucial. This is basically for the race.
And where is Bubo going to come out? So he's still taking on the fuel at this time, and I think
he's out.
Bottle's
he's
in
comfortable.
Front.
He's used those fresh tyres. Now he's got to make sure he doesn't make a mistake into T1 or T2, because he's done the work. He's got 4 seconds, a brilliant bit of strategy there by Bottle Job. He took less fuel and he took the undercut, and I think Bubo unfortunately kind of made a boo-boo there, because that was that didn't really work out for him. I think he should have been more aggressive.
And further down the field, going into Casio Triangle, we've got Yules SK right up the backside of Hit the Mac here. Now, Yules has got really old tyres, and they're going to be disadvantaged for grip as Mac comes into the pits at this point. Meanwhile,
Mac had older tyres.
Mac had even older tyres. My apologies. And Yules SK's got the fresher tyres. I was reading the infographics wrong there. And Yules, I think, is going to pull a little surprise here and pick up 7th, because Mac's now got some work to do to catch up to Yules over the last 8.5 minutes. It's going to be a gap of 4 seconds.
4 seconds, but he's got 4 laps, and the tyre difference is going to be... I think that's going to come down to how much the dirty air impacts Hit the Mac. because Jules has done a great job there in kind of really good job of what's the word? Like I say, springing a surprise and working the strategy and just being a bit more consistent. I think we'd all agree that Mac has been the quicker car, but it's all about staying on the track.
Oh, definitely.
And at the moment, he's not really managed that. I'm just cutting back across to our race leader, who is 15 seconds ahead now. So he's, since that opening kind of mistakes for bottle job, you'll be interested to know that JJ's actually only pulled about 4 seconds in all those battles. And this is what I meant about bottle job is going to be kicking himself, because I think he had a car to be those 15 seconds up the road. I think this could have been a much closer race, and I think he's going to be really kicking himself about how he let this one become a bit too easy for Balding, because we could have had a really titanic fight there for P1. But Balding's going to have his, I think, 5th race win on the bounce, it looks like.
Yep, it'll be 5 in a row. We started in round 3, and he's never let go of the wins since then. And I think, as you were saying last time, if he wins this one and then wins the final round of the season at Tokyo next time out, he could be looking at equaling in Tier 2 the 6-win streak that we saw, I think it was last year, from one of the drivers who moved up to Tier 1. Or was it earlier this year? I think Plux might be looking up some of the data at the moment, so we're just going to carry forward here, folks. But what we can see going round at the moment in terms of timing is that whilst I hope the stream's coming through as well. Just getting a little bit paranoid here that the stream suddenly collapsed, and I don't know to the wiser. Balding is 16 seconds up the road from Bottle Job being in second, who is 4.9 seconds ahead of Bubo. So Bubo has pulled out a pretty nice... Bottle Job has pulled out a pretty nice little gap of 5.2 seconds, and it's still increasing on Bubo, who's in third. Kamaru 16.7 seconds down the road in full from Bubo, who in turn is 10 seconds up the road from Spooky. So I get the feeling Spooky has had a mistake somewhere, because he was closing up fast, and yep, that mistake must have happened off camera probably at the start of lap 29, because the gap was about 2.5 seconds, but now it has opened up massively.
I think you could be right.
Sorry, I think we might have lost you a little bit there, Plux. It's a bit quiet.
No, I've been here. There's been some drama in the Tier 3, so I've just been getting the inside scoop on that.
Right.
So, whilst it doesn't pertain to this race, I've got my ear close to the ground for the other races as well. It looks like we've had a classic race lobby crash, and we've lost the race room, so I'm just going to have to hop off comms for 2 seconds just to try and manage this, so I'll be back with you in a couple of minutes.
No problem, we'll catch you soon, Plux, but in the meantime, folks, you'll have to put up with me for the time being by my lonesome. So with 30 laps complete, and he's coming to, 30 laps almost complete, he's coming to the end of lap 30 at the moment. We have our race leader. He hasn't been on camera too much since the end of the first half of the race, so that is Balding number 52, 17 seconds up the road from Bottle Job. We're going down the field once again. Bubo has brought that gap to 5 seconds between Bottle Job and Bubo in the fight for second, but I think it's in Bottle Job's favour with 5 minutes to go. 16 seconds between Bubo and Kamaru in the chase for third. Then Kamaru holding on to fourth place at the moment. And now G-Rabbit is out in 5th place, and Spooky is trying to go deep again on the tyres. Unfortunately for Spooky, he's losing out considerable time here, and it's just not working out for Spooky as he's gone sideways out the hairpin, and G-Rabbit is now up into 5th place. Oh, but Spooky's still keeping it on track though. He's still in this race. He could still get a good result as he goes sideways into the start spoon. Oh, careful Spooky. You might need to do a very quick tyre change just to bring the car home. You do have the time to do it because you don't need the fuel. Although I think Spooky is going to try and get it home on that one set of tyres. It's up to him. Honestly, we can't intervene, and pardon me for that. So Yules is now 4.2 seconds behind Spooky in 7th, and then Hit the Mac is only 4 seconds off of Yules, currently running in 8th. Mac being the final of our current race runners. We lost Wilkinator, a DNF, about what would have been, I think, if I remember correctly, about 25 minutes in, and we lost JC after approximately 10 minutes, but don't quote me on that. So we've had 2 retirements, and we've still got 8 guys out on track. Unfortunately, the field has widened up a little bit at the moment in terms of the spaces between cars, but we'll keep our eyes open as we've got 3.5 minutes to go. And we can see that Spooky is doing his utmost to nurse that car home, also with the lag, which doesn't make it any easier with the car juddering around. But to be fair, credit to Spooky, he's one of those drivers who's proven, even when he's having a rough day at the office, he's still staying out on track, he's still trying to get that car around, and he's doing his utmost to try and salvage a result when it all goes wrong. And that's the sort of spirit you want being a racing driver in endurance races, as he goes wide there. But that could be the latency as well. It's very hard to predict where his car's going to end up next. But that's the spirit you want in 1 hour endurance racing leagues such as the ADEC or longer series as well, in the fact that you've got to have that mentality of when something goes wrong, it's only a moment, it's not the entire race, and you can still salvage that result. And that's the mental resilience which has been exhibited here, none other than the fan favourite, the little yellow cars that are featured by Spooky Lukey, as he does a bit of a drift into the hairpin.
I mean, now, I wouldn't be surprised if you've got a drift with that state of that rear left tyre. I am now back. Sorry about that, everybody, that you lost your co-commentator for a bit. We've had a bit of a drama in Tier 3 with the lobby going down with 10 minutes to go, so I just had to kind of step in, of course, with Gadget Racing in Tier 1. I called it the best I could, and we've called Tier 3 at 85% of the race. It's one of those things, so we'll have to look back and see what the results were from that race. Meanwhile, we can see that what was I found something interesting and now I've lost it. Yules is really putting the pressure on, I think, Spooky's dead tyres, and if he pushes hard, he's got a shot at this. And just behind him, you've got Mac who of course has got the best tyres of anybody, but he has kind of had those mistakes that cost him a good shot at getting back 7th and maybe even 6th at this point. But we could have a battle here on the final lap of the race.
Yeah, and these guys are heading on to their final lap. I get the feeling that our first driver who will be crossing the line to complete their instance of the race is likely to either be Kim or G-Rabbit, so our 4th and 5th place guys. But let's keep our eyes on the battle for 7th, because Hit the Mac is really closing up to the back of Yules SK through Sector 1 at this point. So these guys are on their last lap, and it's going to be interesting to see whether Mac's going to go for it early, and he's flashing his lights already, I think, to send the message to Yules, I'm coming through, get out of my way, because it's not going to be worth our time fighting here, Yules. And well, Mac is all over the back of the Lexus in his NSX like a bad rash. And is he going to go for it into the hairpin, or is he saying to him, no, it's okay? Perhaps he's flashing his lights to say I'm not going for the move here, but Yules goes deep under braking into the hairpin, and now they're side by side. Now Mac here is going to have to figure out how to play it into Spoon as he flashes his lights again. I think Mac's trying to perhaps deceive Yules at this rate. Alternatively, he's just being very polite and saying I don't intend to go for the move. And let's see how they go through Spoon.
Yules quite infamously once gave up a position for no apparent reason because I came up behind him and flashed my lights at him. And I think maybe he thought I somehow was coming to lap him or something. There's a bit of contact between the two cars there. But yes, it became known as flash to pass for a while. But it's a real world tactic of sticking your lights on just to distract the driver in front, and Yules has come a little bit wide there, I think, through the Casio triangle. And I think he's going to bring it home with Spooky Lukey being the first driver across the line in 6th, and Yules has held on to 7th place with Mac following close behind in 8th. Fantastic drive. A little bit lucky, of course, because Mac did have those errors, but we shall jump back across to our race leader. Another dominant win. He's pulled out in this final stint, a big old section of the gap with those fresh tyres, but a great drive by JJ. Secures himself that 5th win of the season. 6th win of the season. He now has a clean sweep of wins for his points tally. And really a great race. Got a little bit lucky with the mistakes from those behind in the battles, but kept it clean, drove a great race. Then we've got Bottle Job. I think he'll be pleased with the points over Kim, but I think a little bit inwardly disappointed. He knew he had a better car than this today, and it didn't get to show it. And then we've got Bubo, who put in a great drive. Definitely. Got a great launch from P3, and really had a good shot at P2 until kind of late on in the race. And then we've got Kim. What have you got to say about Kim's race?
Kim's had an interesting race as he goes wide through 130. Oh, goes sideways on the final lap. You literally, the commentator's cursing me whenever I look at his car. Oh, no. Kim's going to have to get that turn around because G-Rabbit at the moment is coming up to 130. I think he's going to have enough time. But up until that point, Kim was actually having a really solid race. And I think, in honesty, he'll be happy with this result, given he started in the bottom half of the grid. And he's across the line. He's brought it home in fourth.
I think G-Rabbit will be cursing the fact that this isn't heavy damage and therefore Kim didn't get engine damage as we have the last of our results there. So it is JJ, Bottle Job and Bubo Lubo on the podium. We'll see if we can get some interviews with them later on tonight, just after the race. And again, it's a clean sweep for JJ Balding. Pole position, fastest lap, victory, led every lap. I believe that is a Grand Slam.
Didn't quite lead every lap. Bubo did get into lead a couple of times.
Yes, he did. I am talking complete rubbish. It is true. We will have. We had a couple of laps led by Bubo, so not quite the Grand Slam he had last week, but still a very dominant race win. Didn't quite have as big a pace gap as he did last time out, but drove a perfect race and couldn't have asked for more from himself tonight.
No, definitely not. But I think that, I think to be fair, Bottle Job, Bubo and Spooky are all going to be kicking themselves somewhat because they were all in contention at one point for the sort of the semi-battle for first, but it was more for second, and then it spread and Balding got caught in the mix of it, which actually worked to the favour of some drivers at some points and other drivers at other points. And I think Balding was probably thinking to himself, all right, lads, just don't take me out of the race. I'll take the win. You guys will fight for the rest of the podium. I'll just sort it off into the distance.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes there's races like that. They sometimes just fall into your lap and you just pound round and no one's near you for most of the race.
And with that, that's all we've got time for today. If you have enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and or subscribe to both my channel and also the official Drivers Room YouTube channel, as may be found in the description of this video. But until next time, I've been your host TX141 or Britain a Spit, and remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, stay on track.